all too familiar for all of us. So what did you imagine? You've been up all night with your fever-ish 2-year-old, and right on schedule is your nursing newborn, and you didn't get a wink of sleep. But you wake up, and I'm not sure why we say we wake up when we didn't get any sleep, but you wake up, the sink's full of dishes, the laundry from Sunday is still sitting on the couch, not put away. And just to convince you that nothing's gonna go your way, the worst thing that could happen next, a blowout, which is probably gonna be followed by puke, right? So we've all been there. You were there a couple weeks ago. We've all been there, and we all know that that's the moment the chest tightens and we go, I can't take another thing, I can't take puke, right? I wanna just go dive back into bed and sleep forever, or crumple on the floor and cry forever, or tell my husband all the things he's not doing to help me, right? So we've all been there. But that's not the only part of motherhood that's hard. I think there's a lot of motherhood that nobody ever tells us is gonna be hard, that we can't expect, and it's probably good that they don't, because the things people do tell you before you have kids, you're like, please shut up, I don't need your help, please go away, right? So I want to talk a little bit today about some of those things, and I also want to tell you about what the hardest part of my own journey was that was unexpected, which was the anxiety and depression that would come with motherhood. I never struggled with either of those things until I was a mother, and it took me by surprise. I had a mom that was clinically depressed, and I was sure I would never be that person, and I didn't want to be that person for my kids. But it was hard for me to get pregnant. And when I did, I was super excited, and I started planning, because that's what I do. And I had a 37-page birth plan, and I had the oils and the massage balls and the playlist and all the things ready to go. Julie remembers I bought enough cloth diapers to diaper the entire state of Arizona, because I was going to cloth diaper, and we wouldn't have pacifiers. And I don't know what I thought was wrong with those, because they're actually straight from Jesus. But I wasn't going to do that. My kid was going to not need those. And at my 18-week scan, they said, you should probably terminate this pregnancy, because something could be wrong with your baby. And that's not what a first-time mom wants to hear at 18 weeks pregnant, right? So the next 22 weeks, I went in bi-weekly for scans and ultrasounds and all this stuff, and they could never diagnose anything. Something's wrong, they kept telling me. Something's wrong. But I figured if I could keep control of my birth, that I would be okay, right? If I could just control that moment, it was going to be beautiful. I wouldn't take drugs, and I would enjoy it, and my husband would be there. And at 4 days past my due date, I went in for my non-stress test. And they said, you're in labor. And I was like, see, I told you I wouldn't need drugs. I couldn't even tell I was in labor. That's not how it works. So anyway, they said, but you need to go to the hospital because something is wrong. Something's not right. And at this point, I'd lost all faith in my doctors. I'd lost all faith in anybody being able to help me figure things out. But I went to the hospital, and I asked the nurse there, I said, are they right? Is he not okay? Like, do I have to have a C-section? Because I was hanging on to controlling this birth that I needed to be okay. And she said, he's not okay. You need to do what they're saying. So as I'm being wheeled off, all of the fears well up. I could die having a C-section. I could bleed out. Like all the blogs I've been reading, like I should not do this, right? And the doctor, the anesthesiologist, leaned over and he goes, I usually like to pray with my patients before I go into the OR. And I was like, okay, I can let go just a little bit. But within, 15 minutes, C-sections are fast, right? My 9-pound, perfect little boy came screaming into the world. Not a thing wrong with him. But for me, a wave just came over me of depression and anxiety. And it would stay with me for quite a while. So I've had 3 kids since then. The births were long and heavily drugged. My second one was 38 hours. He's the one that came 10 days late. And this is my family now. So the motherhood looks like this sometimes, right? It looks fun and happy and creative. Julie happened to take 2 of those pictures. It's a wonderful thing, and sometimes all of our dreams end up in these picture-perfect moments, and then sometimes it doesn't look like that. Sometimes it looks like this. In fact, for some of us, it looks like this a lot of the time, and for the rest of us, just some of the time. But I think we've all had moments of wondering, like, how much more can I take? How much more am I expected to take, right? And probably surprised by our inability to hold it all. Right? We think, I've got this. This should be a beautiful thing. Like, moms, that's what I'm built to do, is be a mom. But it doesn't always work that way. So I want to talk a little bit about, yeah, we're right. I want to talk a little bit about releasing us from this idea that we've done something to bring anxiety onto ourselves, or depression. And I'm going to talk about them kind of like this because sometimes they get muddy, whether it's depression or anxiety, and they're really good friends. And so, having no idea if you're struggling with one but not the other, or maybe your depression gives you anxiety, maybe your anxiety gives you depression, it's okay. It all kind of flows together in and out. What does it feel like? Well, for some of us, if we are so overwhelmed, we might not be aware of what's happening in our bodies. We might not be connecting with that at all. And it might take somebody that you love saying, hey, I think you're probably not okay. In fact, after my first son, my husband, after about 6 months of me yelling at him, said, I think you're not quite yourself. Like, this isn't how you normally do life. And I was like, oh, okay, I can hear that. And you're right, it's not. And then I started doing some work, but it still took a long time for me to reach my baseline again, right? If you are pretty aware of your body and what's happening, you might feel your heart rate increase when you have anxiety. You might feel tightness in your chest. You might notice you have GI issues like diarrhea, constipation, cramping, more gas. You might have loss of appetite. I never have that. I usually have increased appetite. I don't think I've ever dealt with any situation and saying I can't eat. I wish I did have that level. It's muscle tension. If you're always adjusting your neck or your back or something, a lot of that could be anxiety. We tend to tense up like this and not even know we're doing it. And then we get sore because we're just living life like this, right? And sleep disruptions, which can be hard when you're a new mom because you have a human being that's a sleep disruption, right? So how do I know if it's anxiety or if this kid just keeps waking me up all the time, right? And I want to talk about the less talked about but really common symptoms, which are irritability, rage, anger, frustration, and inflexibility tolerance. So do you find yourself feeling like overwhelmed and then just roaring at your family, right? That's anxiety. That's feeling like I can't take any more and everybody just needs to shut up so that I can deal, right? So what causes it? Well, the number one cause is lack of sleep, and I want to tell you why. Right? Good job trying to avoid that when you have a baby. Why is that? So the part of your brain that's the emotional part of your brain, if this is your brain, the very first part to form is your amygdala, it's the emotional part of your brain, and then the cognitive part of your brain forms after that. So this is like your frontal lobe and your prefrontal cortex. This amygdala is responsible for your fight, flight response. It's attached to your vagus nerve, which runs all the way down the back of your body. When you don't get enough sleep, your body goes, something's wrong. So it goes on high alert, and it sends off chemicals to tell your body, be on alert, hypervigilant, be ready, because she's not safe. Because what are situations other than having a newborn where you wouldn't be able to sleep? War, famine, right? So your body's like this, what's happening next? And you're producing all of these chemicals that say you're not okay. So even though it's because your newborn is waking you up all the time, your body doesn't know that. So that can be the first wave of anxiety to come. Dehydration is big for depression and anxiety, so making sure you drink enough water. Lack of connection with other women, so it's good that you're here today. Isolation leads to depression and anxiety for sure. Loss of identity. Who am I? Loss of hopes, loss of dreams. Maybe you lost a child, maybe you lost a pregnancy. Maybe this is the baby after a loss and it feels wrong. Maybe it doesn't feel good and you thought it should, right? Loss of support, loss of friendship. We lose a lot of things as we gain in motherhood. Feeling overwhelmed and under-supported. How many of you identify with that? Yes. So unless you have a really great family, which few of us do, and you're blessed if you do, and you happen to live by them, or you have a really great group of mom friends, it can be very isolating. Those first few weeks you get all these meals, and then you're stuck with this thing that you don't know how to keep alive, right?
Or a toddler.
Or a toddler, yes, that talks all the time. And mess. This is another one that we don't like to talk about because we don't like to talk about the fact that our houses are messy. But let's be honest, when you walk into a room with a child that's puking and pooping all over the place and the house is a mess, it's like the last thing you need, right? And it can really push you over the edge. And noise, we were talking about noise a little bit earlier, and hormonal shifts are really natural. I want to talk specifically about trauma. In a room of, how many women do we have here? 9, 10 women. Chances are at least 6 of you have some kind of trauma in your life, whether that's sexual assault, sexual abuse, neglect, narcissistic parents. We all have hard stuff. So this anxiety that comes with trauma is a little different than the anxiety that comes with lack of sleep. So we can resolve that lack of sleep anxiety pretty easily-ish, right? When we have trauma and it's causing us anxiety, what we typically do is we push it down, push it down. I don't want to look at that, I don't want to look at that, go away, I don't want to look at that. What happens is we create this tension that's like a rubber band, right? Push it away, push it away, push it away. And eventually it's going to snap. Because what's happening is that stuff wanting to come up is like alarm bells. It's your body saying, you are not okay. You need to look at this. It's not going to end well if we don't look at it, right? So as we push it away, we push it away, and we push it away, snap, we either end up in a really deep depression or having panic attacks. So if that's you, I want to encourage you, support group, therapy, talk to a friend, get real about it, because that stuff does not just disappear. It actually gets bigger. Because if you ignore it, think of your little kid, mom, 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 mom. How do we get that kid to be quiet? By pushing her away? What do you need? Bring it in, invite it close. That's how you resolve that. So that's a little different than what I'm going to be talking about for the rest of the morning, okay? So what can we do? Grounding exercise. We're going to do this one together. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So I want you guys to find 5 orange things. Look around the room and identify 5 orange or red things. Okay. So what'd you see, Julie?
That ball.
Okay.
Those,
Oh, didn't even see that over there.
over there. My cup is orange, Joy's orange peel, and the keyboard.
Good. I want you to identify 4 different textures. So the pants, the chair, the table, your skin. Just feel 4 things.
Your hair.
Okay.
Oh, that's spiky there.
All right. 3 sounds. So go ahead and close your eyes for this one. And call out what you hear.
Footsteps.
Baby.
The humming thing. What is that? The air conditioning. That was better than my humming.
2 scents. So you might need to grab your hair, your shirt.
Grab your
2
shirt.
different scents.
The orange peel.
Good. Orange peel is great. Citrus is great. We're going to talk about that. And the final one is taste. 1 taste. So coffee for most of us, right?
Donut.
So here's the thing about anxiety. Anxiety wants to take you away from the here and now. Anxiety wants you to go to the place where you don't have control. It wants to convince you that you're not right here where you're safe and okay. Grounding says, I'm here. Here's how I know I'm here. Because I can see these things, I can feel these things, I can smell these things, I can touch these things. So as you feel your chest tighten up, your breath go shallow, this is a really good way to bring yourself back to the here and now, so that the thing calling your attention over here that is not necessarily real can calm down and you can view it more correctly, a better perspective. Peppermint, sandalwood, chamomile, lavender, and citrus. So if you're at a place where it's really bad, what I recommend is keeping peppermints in your purse or peppermint gum. It will naturally cause your system to kind of relax a little bit. Get a tissue, put some peppermint oil, lavender oil, something like that on it, stick it in your sweater or in your pant pocket or in your bra so you can just sniff it. And it will help, it will help relax your system a little bit. Diffuse those things in your home. There's rollers that you can use that have essential oils on them that are really helpful. And then ice water, not lukewarm water, not tea, ice cold, the coldest water you can possibly find. Ice water. What happens is that goes in, you can feel it go in your body, and all of that stuff being spent on this anxiety trying to reorient you is now being spent on, oh, cold, we have to heat that up, okay? And you'll feel your body immediately relax and go into heat this liquid up that just came into our body. And a lollipop, which sounds weird, make sure it has sugar in it, not fake sugar, which will automatically release happy hormones in your body that help combat these anxious fight-flight hormones, okay? Mindfulness, we're going to do an exercise at the end, and I'm going to walk you through a mindfulness exercise that will help you. Connecting with other women, which we're doing here. Make sure those women fill your cup. I think we've all had friends that we spend time with them, and we go, oh my gosh, that was exhausting. can't do that again, right? And we all have all spent time with friends that we go, that fills my cup in a way that it has not been filled in a really long time. Identify those people. They don't have to be your best friend. They don't have to be people that you vacation with. They just have to be people that fill your cup. And that means that you walk away going, I'm not exhausted by this other human, right? They've built me up. It's encouraging. Tegan said to me I think it was you, one time, that good friends talk about, do you remember? They don't gossip, they don't talk about people, they talk about actual things. And so making sure that the content of that time is meaningful and intentional. Sleep. This is hard, and I think it ties in with the next one, which is asking for help. Especially as you add more kids to the plate, don't be afraid to say, like, I'm not okay, and I need help, I need to sleep. And ask your husband. I think husbands don't oftentimes realize what it's like to wake up every 2 hours, but if you ask for help, typically they should be helpful. Or say to your girlfriend that's also in the same boat, could you come over, I just need an hour to shower and rest, or whatever. And then moving your body, making sure you're working out your body and moving it is really important. And play. How many of you play?
No.
Good, good. What do you do to play?
I get down with my son.
Okay. What else? Anybody else play?
I have boys that play catch.
Good. So adults oftentimes forget how to play, but play is takes place in the part of our brain that helps us heal and relax. And so figuring out what you like to do.
Helps us heal.
It really
That's
does.
really a sweet.
So activating that part of your brain is really important, whether it's coloring, photography, gardening, tossing a ball around, going back to the things you liked as a kid, Lego sets. Like my son and I can do Lego sets for like 3 hours. I can get lost in that all day long. So whatever it is that you like that is not taxing but filling, spend time doing that. The thing is, when you have anxiety or depression, taking that first step into it is the hardest one, right? Because everything in you is like, no, I have to be hypervigilant, I have to stay here, I can't do anything, I can't move, right? But once you move into it, it gets easier and easier. So, how many of you have heard, be anxious for nothing, but in everything, in prayer and supplication, make your requests made known to God? Everybody heard that verse? Yeah, that's not a command that you shouldn't have anxiety, and if you do, you're full of sin. Let me say that again. That's not a command that if you have anxiety, you're full of sin. That verse comes at the end of a conversation Paul is having with a church that is struggling with having security in the gospel. They're striving for salvation. They're striving to do things to earn it. And he says, stop, be anxious for nothing. God's got you, right? That has nothing to do with the anxiety we're talking about this morning. So I want you to release that, let it go, and I want to talk about the anxiety Jesus had and how he dealt with it. So Jesus oftentimes, Luke 5 says Jesus often took time for himself away to pray and be alone. And just before the feeding of the 5,000, he was headed across the lake to be alone, and he saw this mass of people that was hungry and thought, I have to feed these people. So he's already at his end, right? He's already spent all day with these people. And he feeds them, and then he says to the disciples, you know what, you guys go ahead. I'm going to stay back on my own. This happens to be the night that he walks on water with Peter. But first he took time alone, okay? And then he walks with Peter. My favorite story, though, is the story of the Garden of Gethsemane. This is an actual picture of the Garden of Gethsemane. So these are the trees. Some of these trees are over 2,000 years old. These are the actual trees that Jesus walked by. And the Bible tells us that the night Jesus was betrayed, he went there with his best friends, the 12 men he had spent 3 years with, walking with, talking with, praying with, eating with, sleeping with, right? And he says, my soul is in great distress. I need you to pray with me. I need you to be with me. And he got frustrated because they kept falling asleep and they couldn't be there for him. It also tells us that at one point he was so heavily distressed, anxious, praying, God, take this cup from me. I don't want to do this. That he sweat blood. How much fear, anxiety, heaviness, sorrow do you have to feel to be sweating blood? A lot. So even Jesus, right? Even Jesus felt that way. Even he felt like it was too heavy, he couldn't bear. Even he said to his friends, help me, be with me, connect with me, pray with me. Even Jesus. And you know what? I believe really truly that he's here with us today, and I believe he sees each of you. He sees the heaviness, he sees the sorrow, he sees all of it, and he wants you to know that he's here with you. And that he's got it, and it's okay to feel those feelings. There's nothing wrong with feeling feelings, right? Let's say that again. There's nothing wrong with feeling feelings. And he's not scared of those feelings. So I want to practice taking a deep breath and being quiet with our bodies. We are made mind, body, and soul. I have a Bible degree, so I'm going to get a little Bible-y on you. The Bible tells us we're made in his image, and that's what it means, that we are mind, body, and soul. When we disconnect those parts, and we try to be just body, I'm going to work out really hard, I'm going to eat really well, I'm going to drink all the water, and then I won't have these feelings. Well, I'm completely neglecting my soul and my mind. Well, let me just get my soul. I just need to pray more and read scripture more, and then I'll be okay. Does that work? Ever? No, because I'm neglecting my body and my soul, my mind. Mindfulness is the practice of bringing all of those things together and paying attention to them. And there's tons and tons of research on the effectiveness of mindfulness in treating depression and anxiety. So if you practice this 3 to 5 minutes a day, you will absolutely feel a reduction in your anxiety and your depression. So if you feel comfortable, in a moment I'm going to ask you to close your eyes and participate with me. But as we do the breathing parts, I want you to picture a pinwheel. You guys remember these from when we were kids? When you breathe out, I want you to picture that pinwheel in your mind, and I want you to try to make it spin for as long as you can. So that looks like this. In for 4, and out. For as long as you can. It's not, okay? There's a place for that kind of breathing. But if we really want to activate all of the places where we hold the oxygen and the CO2 in our bodies, we want to take that slow, focused exhale, okay? So when I say deep breath in, slow breath out, picture that pinwheel spinning for as long as you can make it spin, okay? So, if you feel comfortable, go ahead and close your eyes and get comfortable in your seat, however you're comfy, in a place and stature that you don't need to adjust. And I want you to take that 4 count breath in and that slow focused exhale out. And one more time, deep breath in. Try to fill up your whole belly with air. I want you to take a minute and listen. Listen to your heart beating. See if you can feel your heart in your chest. And notice, as your breathing returns to its natural rate, its natural flow, how deep is that breath? Maybe it's shallow, maybe you're having trouble breathing deeply. We're not going to fix, we're not going to analyze, we're just going to notice. And we're going to move into a body scan, and what that means is we're going to just notice what's happening in our bodies. We're going to start at the very tippy top of our heads, where our hair follicles meet our scalp. And I want you to just notice. Any part feel itchy, uncomfortable, tense? What's happening on your scalp? Scan down into your forehead. We tend to hold a lot of stress in our eye sockets, our sinuses, our jaw, and even our ears. So just notice. What feels tight, heavy, achy? Scan down into your spine, imagining each vertebrae and the tension you're holding there. Into your shoulder blades, biceps, where your bra strap crosses your back, and then circle around to your gut. Imagine your intestines going back and forth, zigzagging inside of you. What are you holding in your stomach? The seat of your emotions. Just notice it and then let it go. Down into your sits bones. How heavy do you feel in your seat? Light as a feather? Heavy as an anvil? Somewhere in between? Continue scanning into your hip sockets, your knees, your legs, your thighs, calf muscles, and your ankles. I want you to wiggle your right toes, wiggle your left toes. And notice, is there a difference between the right and the left? Do you feel the same on each side of your body? Take a deep breath in through your nose. 6 counts minimum out through your mouth. Let that pinwheel spin. Exhaling all of the tension that you identified in your body. And whenever you're ready, feel free to open your eyes. So our discussion at our tables today, I would like you to discuss what you felt when you were doing the mindfulness exercise. If it's your first time doing it, my guess is it was really hard for you to focus. You might have felt really distracted. It might have been uncomfortable to do in this setting, and that's okay. If that's something you want to incorporate, there's an app, because I know it's hard to do on your own, called Headspace that I highly recommend, that has all different kinds of mindfulness for different situations, even ones like woke up in the middle of the night and can't get back to sleep. Then you can just play it and hope you fall back to sleep. Should I do a question time? Questions? Okay, so we'll just at your table discuss the mindfulness exercise and anything else that came up for you. Thank you guys.
So
Hi.
good. Thank you.